Hey, it's Jack, and this video is called Is He the One? Hey, welcome to the channel if you're new here, and if you haven't yet subscribed, I want to invite you to do that. Just hit the subscribe button and then tap the bell notification so you hear of new videos as soon as they come out. I release at least 2 videos every week on relationships and personal growth, and I would love to have you with us. All right, so how do you know if he's the one? Well, I could give you a 17-point checklist, right? Notice this, notice that, he'll do this, he'll do that, he'll say this. But what I've come to realize is that in doing that, there's a real risk that I will disconnect you or discourage you from your own knowing. So this video is actually really simple. If he's the one, you'll know it. If he's the one, you'll know it. Now, what I mean by that is that you will have a knowing, you'll have a deep sense, you'll have an intuition, and maybe even just like a quiet knowing, like, yep, him. You don't have to convince yourself of it. You didn't come to it because you did an amazing Excel spreadsheet, or that you crunched some matrix from a dating coach that gave you 57 inputs and 137 outputs. You'll just kind of know it. It's quiet, it's simple, it may happen slowly, it may happen all at once, that you just come to that. Your own knowing isn't really on your own timeline, right? So we come into knowing kind of when we're ready to know. So you don't want to be forcing that. It's sort of the simplicity of if you know, you know, and if you don't know. And if you don't know, you don't yet know, or you might sound a bit paradoxical. If you don't know, you might not yet know, right? So it might be like you need more time and life to unfold. You don't know, like it could go either way. Or there's sometimes a place of, I actually know that he's not my guy, and yet I fear leaving him, or I fear this is as good as it'll get, or I've been alone and lonely for so long, I just don't want to be out of relationship. And hey, I get it, all those things are super real and human. And there's a danger that if you listen to that over your own knowing, you start to disconnect really from your own guidance in your life. The part of you, your deep sense of self, your higher self, however you kind of think of that just the part of you that kind of has its eye out for you and kind of knows what the path ahead is. And at times it doesn't, right? At times we are plotting a course and we just don't know. It could go left, right, front, center, we don't know. But we acknowledge we don't know. And so we become more comfortable with not knowing rather than trying to force it. And the danger is if you go from the sort of the checklist thing, is that some guy might meet someone else's checklist, which by the way is never going to be as powerful as whose checklist, right? Your checklist, or even life beyond a checklist, where you notice, yeah, there are some things that are important to you, right? Maybe you have certain values that you want in a relationship. And if you've never sat down and really done some thinking about what you want in relationship, I would encourage you to do that. But for a lot of you, you've probably done that, and it might not yet have yielded you the results. And it can be because we spend so much time over there, right? He's going to be like this, he's going to say this, we're going to think these ways, we're going to have these kind of dates, these kind of trips, these kind of life together, that you sometimes get in the way of what actually is. Like sometimes your idea of relationship is the thing that can get in the way. None of that is about settling for a kind of type of connection that you don't want. It's actually about relaxing your idealization of what relationship is. Most of us, consciously or otherwise, have an idea of relationship should look this way, relationship should feel this way, relationship should have him doing these things or saying these things. And, if I was just being a bit provocative, how do you know that? Like if you've not found your person, so to speak, how do you know, right? You're not saying that from lived experience, really. You're probably doing it from projecting some ideas you have, or some things you didn't like about how it went with other people that you want differently. And again, all of that's superhuman, I get it, I'm not making that wrong. I'm just inviting you to notice, is that really serving you, right? And sometimes people have to put aside fantasy, romantic ideal projections that they have in order to actually get in touch with a more real impulse and a more real connection with the right person. And it might have a different felt quality to what you thought it was going to feel like. Right? Just because you haven't been there. You might have ideas about what it's like to be wealthy if you've never had money, right? But if you've never had that, you don't actually know what it's going to feel like. You have an idea about it. You might have an idea about what it's going to be like if you get a promotion at work, but you haven't had that yet, so you don't really know what it's going to feel like. Maybe you say, well, I do because I've had promotions in the past. Okay. But if you're really living your life as a pristine unfolding where you're moment to moment tracking reality and what is actually happening, that's part of a kind of deeper inner work orientation, then you might not actually know. And particularly with romantic relationships, because our experiences in the past can be all over the map, right? And we can have lust and romantic infatuation and think that that was a real relationship, right? Or we can have a pattern of unavailability with mum or dad that we now recreate with someone else, and we think that that's love, because when you strip it all away, for most of us, what is love? It's that thing that happened to us when we grew up that we kind of encoded as love, right? Whether that was someone being overbearing with us, whether that was someone being distant from us, whether that was someone being neglectful to us, all of that somehow gets kind of encoded in this young one as, well, that's probably what love is, right? Or maybe you're like, well, I really don't know what love is because I didn't ever feel loved, and so I'm doing something different. And again, I'm just inviting the humility that you might not really know how that feels, but when you do get something that you experience in a certain way, you might have a knowingness like, yeah, this is the person that I want to play ball with. This is the person I want to create with. This is the person I want to be in relationship with. And it might not look anything like anything previously that you've had in your life. So I'm just seeding that thought that if the scripts can help you get closer to the things that you want. But really, whether he's the right guy, that's actually an internal job of your own knowing, right? That at some point you're going to have a knowing like, yeah, this guy, or yeah, this is the time, or this is what I want. Does it mean it's going to go swimmingly? Not necessarily. Does it mean that it's definitely going to work out? Not necessarily. I don't think there are any ironclad guarantees, but your best guarantee is being in touch with that knowingness. And until you have it, not pulling the wool over your own eyes, not living in your own projections, fantasies, idealizations, mind creations that are actually just keeping you further away from reality, right? Sometimes in the world of spiritual teaching, we make this easy. We say, if you want to know what chocolate tastes like, you go taste chocolate. I could try and describe it to you, but the reality is what I describe to you and then what you interpret from that description is probably going to be very far from the actual experiential phenomenon of tasting chocolate. And it might be a similar thing that tasting the right relationship and connection isn't something that you can pattern match from your past. It's actually something you've got to live into and then see if you can get your own knowing and guidance that, yeah, this is it, he's the one. And you may sometimes surprise yourself. Sometimes people have had this ideal type of a guy that they always thought they wanted, right? This particular form of Prince Charming, or he'll be successful in these particular ways, or he'll be more successful than my dad, or he'll be as successful as my dad, or all sorts of things, or he'll be, and they'll list the things out. And really what they're listing is their own ideal self, right? He'll be fun. I think I'm fun. I want to be fun. He'll be creative. I think I'm creative. I want to be creative. He'll be soulful. I consider myself soulful. I want to be soulful. He'll be athletic. I consider myself athletic. I want to be athletic. And of course, if you can find someone that enjoys some of the same things in life as you, that's probably going to be a good thing. But there's often a deeper thing that your soul came here to want and to learn that you may not even be able to articulate, and that life may have a plan in store for you if you follow the crumbs, the right kind of crumbs, right, of your own knowing, the little omens and felt senses and quiet knowings that life can reveal to you, like, maybe I didn't even envisage it would go this way. I'm surprised, and yeah, this is what is right for me right now in this season of my life. And by the way, if you can live your life from this place, what does it do for you? Less anxiety, less noise, less doubt, less confusion, more energy, right? Because any of this mental anxiety that we find ourselves in tends to take a lot of energy, more ease, more simplicity. And even if you never step into a relationship in the coming months, and that's what you really want, but it doesn't happen for you, just living your life from this place, irrespective of relationship, from your own place of knowing, will be incredibly powerful for letting you be yourself, for letting you not worry about the future, for letting things be revealed and unfold in your life, that you don't have to control them or make them a certain way or manipulate your feelings into being happy or excited, or that you should want something or you shouldn't. It's almost like you just kind of drop a lot of the noise and distortion and get more simply to be on your own wavelength about what it is that you care about, what it is that you want, what is occurring to you in your life. It's almost like instead of having the 5-year plan of here's where I'm going to be, which is a lot of what people bring into relationship, right? And I'm all a fan of long-term commitments, of knowing the things that are important to you. But often when we have that 5-year plan, it's just a projection of our ideal self. Just like when someone has that big checklist about the guy, it's just a projection of their own ideal selves on this unsuspecting guy who's probably never going to live up to your expectations, and probably actually isn't the right guy for you to be in relationship with. You don't want to be in relationship with someone who's just a mirror of your own ideal self. You might want to be in relationship with someone that, from a deeper place of knowing, is the guy that you want to be in relationship with. And if you're listening to this and you're like, that sounds too easy, Jack, I get it. I remember in my 20s someone saying, yeah, someone who'd gotten married, like at a certain point you just kind of know. And sort of being like, well, how do you know, right? And just boom, straight into all my mentalization, my questioning, my doubting mind, my anxiety, all of that just activated. It felt so, like someone's like, yeah, we're going to cross the ocean and just at the right time a boat will appear. And you're like, that sounds like a really bad plan. Not sure that I can trust that, right? A lot of this, when you strip it away, comes back to basic trust. Can you trust yourself to know and make the right choices for you? And making the right choices doesn't actually mean you get it right all the time. It's that you sort of trust that there is a holding, there is a universe, there is a, some people call it divine plan. There's just a path that, a path appears. There is a path for you to walk in relationship, and that you don't get there by being overly mentally preoccupied. You actually get there by paying attention. I don't know if you've had the experience of being out in nature and suddenly realizing you're hearing noises, like there's maybe an animal or even worse, like a predator or something. And instead of like getting really mentally anxious, there's like an alertness that can drop over you where you start to use your senses more, and you might suddenly know actually instinctually what it is that you have to do. Sometimes knowing can be a bit more like that. It's like I didn't have to think my way to it. I actually just got in touch with it. And again, small steps. If this isn't a way that you've lived, this might bring up a lot of fear. It might bring up a lot of anxiety, because it can sound just kind of weak and vague, and you might be used to really taking control of your life. This notion that, you can control your destiny. Well, of course you can. From a certain perspective, you can do that. But for most of you that are on a path of inner work, you actually don't want to control your destiny. You want to know your destiny, right? That your destiny isn't just some idea that you came up with, you're now trying to live into. It's like a path that appears. It's something that you walk into. It's something that's revealed, co-created. It's something that life has some ideas on your behalf, rather than you just having to have all the ideas about yourself. So life might have an idea, I'm sort of anthropomorphizing life in this way, but life might have an idea that there's a person for you to be in a relationship with, and they may like different than the thing you thought. Certainly if you have a normal type that you're attracted to, right? You kind of walk in the bar and it's like, boom, blonde hair, blue eyes, or boom, super tall guy, or boom, super suave guy, or bad boy, or there's some kind of type that you somewhat unconsciously are attracted to. My imagination is that that's not actually the guy that you're going to end up being in the right long-term relationship with, because that tends to be based upon patterning from the past. It tends to be more like a quick kind of animal response. And I'm not making that wrong. It can be super fun and gratifying and sexy to be in touch with that. But it's often not the guy that's right for you that actually you're going to do your deeper soul work with, that you're going to build a life, a partnership, a relationship. There's something else that's often going on there, and it's not always a formula that you can put your finger on. It's better to have a knowing about it. Just like in life and sales and in business, we can have all sorts of formulae, but sometimes there's nothing as powerful. You look at some of the best entrepreneurs in the world, there's just a kind of knowing that like, yeah, I just sense that this is the thing that we should be doing, or that I'm picking up early warnings, early signals from a lot of different people that customers want this thing, let's create it. So much better than like just my idea about what the world needs, or my idea about where this business needs to go. Sometimes a business doesn't need to be big. Sometimes it's going to scale globally. Sometimes you need to be in relationship in a way that you haven't yet experienced, and you need to stop projecting your ideas from the past and actually come into contact with your own humility, that you might not know what is right for you, or you might not know how it's going to feel when you get into connection with the person that's right for you. You might just have a knowing about it. So if any of all of this has made sense, I'd love to know. Questions and comments below the video. And I also want to make an invitation to you, if you haven't taken it yet, to my webinar. It's called the 3 keys to being relationship ready. A lot of it is about dropping these unconscious patterns that actually allow you to be more in touch with your own knowingness. How do you stop playing unconscious roles? How do you stop attracting unconscious archetypes? If any or all of that is of interest to you, just click the first link beneath this video. Find a time that works for you in your time zone, and we'll see you there. It's with my teaching partner Clayton Olson, and it's gotten great feedback. I think it'll be a really good investment of your time. So do that if you haven't. Click that link, find a time that works for you. And in the meantime, I look forward to your questions and comments. Thanks for being part of this community. It's fun to be back in the sun and with the snow, because I've done a good job of missing some of the harshest parts of the Colorado winter. So I look forward to shooting more videos for you in nature. And as always, I'm Jack. Thanks for being here.